this reminded me of this other debt company that you guys owe, but you just completely ignore that loan and you pretend like it doesn't exist and you don't pay anything. Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and thank you so much for joining me yet again. If it is your first time here, and on this channel we chat about all things related to managing your money and adulting in general. So if that sounds like your type of vibe, please make sure that you check out our other videos, and if you like what you see, smash the subscribe button and become a member of the team. Today we are doing episode 4 of our recap series. If you didn't know, we are recapping How to Get Rich on Netflix, and we're having a couple of conversations about what's going on in these financial journeys, what decisions people are taking, what advice is being given, because you know most, we enjoy financial conversations on the channel. So of course we are going to discuss and unpack what's going on. So if you're interested, check out the series. Otherwise, you can check out the first 3 episodes of this series. They give you enough context to actually follow. So in today's episode, guys, we are introducing the new characters, right? We concluded in the previous episode, and now we are going to talk about the new characters and kuningi. It's getting tricky, it's getting trickier, it's getting kuningier with the new individuals that are coming into the story. And I feel like the production team or whatever it is that put together and selected these individuals honestly did a thing. You know why? Because I feel like they are so different and they are going through different scenarios and situations. And I feel like each of us is bound to see ourselves in 1 or 2 of these situations, if not 3 or 4. And I absolutely love that. Okay, let's get into who we meet now, right? So we have Drew, right? So Drew is getting married to his husband, Mike. Yes, he's getting married to his husband, Mike. Drew is a drag queen, if I can say, and he dances for a living. So he's got an inconsistent income. He doesn't earn a lot. He's now looking forward to marrying the love of his life, who is way more stable from a career and income perspective, and he's more comfortable and he earns a lot of money, right? So a couple of things worry Drew quite a lot. Firstly, he's worried about his money management and the fact that he's not able to cover his bills, especially because his income is variable. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this when we quit a permanent job and we've got that income that brings in gigs sometimes and doesn't bring in gigs sometimes. So that's his first issue, right? His second thing is that his partner is very stable. Mike is very stable, he earns a decent amount of money, and Mike believes that Drew has a good handle on his finances. He knows that Drew has a credit card, but he thinks that he pays it off. He can comfortably afford himself, and that's because Drew insists on covering his own bills to a point where they are getting married and he can't afford to pay for the wedding up front. So Mike is going to cover the wedding, his partner, but he wants to pay Mike back because the fact that he doesn't have, guys, gives him a lot of anxiety. And this is a theme that we see across the different families, that the people who don't have or who have less also go through the most. And I think sometimes we think that people who earn less in a relationship always are considered lucky because they get to take, but it also gives the person earning less a lot of anxiety to think that they are dependent on the one earning more, or they are not contributing equally to the relationship. And I think this is something that I've picked up in this entire series, that I've thought about a bit more than I usually do, that hey, just because somebody earns less, it doesn't mean they're in a better position and all of that stuff. They also go through the motions of earning less and not being able to contribute equally. And Drew, lastly, is not very honest with his partner because he feels inferior, I suppose, in the relationship. So he's not putting all his cards on the table because he's afraid of what I suppose Mike will think of him. If Mike finds out what his real situation is. Guys, these people are close to getting married and they are still hiding things from each other, or rather Drew is still hiding things from Mike because of pride. But I also think besides pride, guys, He doesn't like the fact that he's dependent on his partner, to be honest, and that gives him a lot of anxiety, and that's why he's not being entirely honest. Ne? So that's Drew and Mike. Second up, we have Millie and Christian. Millie and Christian are also not married yet. I think they are engaged, I'm not sure, but they are not married yet. Christian earns quite a lot of money, way more than Millie does. And Christian works a fixed, comfortable, high-earning job. He also does trading on the side. So now we're introduced to something different. Christian does options trading, and it's a form of derivatives trading. Guys, we've spoken about that type of trading on the channel in an episode that I had with Zach. I'll link it up in the cards. But that space, for you to go into that short-term trading, buying and selling, opening up positions, using liquidity, which is other people's money to trade, you need to be very knowledgeable in that space in order to go there. And I agree with Ramit, because he says that individuals, in his opinion, shouldn't be trading those type of instruments. They should be investing for the long term, using fundamental information, which is information about, you know, the economy and the shares and all of that stuff, not this instinct luck, you know, breaking news type of stuff. And what happened with Christian is that he, I think it was during the COVID time or whatever, took a position out on Zoom, because obviously with everybody going into COVID and working from home, everybody knew that the tech stocks would increase, or rather, let me not say everybody, but most people in the industry knew that tech stocks would start, you know, going up. So he took out a position and they made a lot of money. And what they started doing is that they started using other money from other places to go there. And then, like the markets always do, because the markets go up and the markets go down, especially in the short term. So they ended up losing money on Zoom, right? And they lost a lot of money on the position. So this position in particular that put them under, I think they've lost 80,000 Rand on it, right? Or the money that they invested is now 80,000 Rand. I think the loss was 80,000 Rand, to be honest. And he does not want to realize the loss because it's painful. And he feels like, you know, obviously, there's a saying in investments that you only lose when you close out your position, meaning that if you don't close out your position, there's always an opportunity that it will get better and it will rise. And I think Christian is holding on to that. But now it's giving gambling. It's giving gambler, right? It's giving his gambling, because honestly, he's got no information or like proper information to say that something is going to change, to a point where towards the end, he ends up losing 100,000 Rand as opposed to 8,000 Rand, 80,000 Rand. So things are getting worse, but he's just holding on to that thing that things might change. So that's a very complicated financial situation there. And then on the other side, his wife Millie is into network marketing, right? So see, we've got trading this side, we've got network marketing this side, we've got hiding money from your partner on the other side. So with Millie, she's into network marketing, and she's gotten onto this level where she gets a car that the network marketing company pays for, but if she doesn't afford it, then she must pay for it. And for 8 months out of the 12 months, she's had to pay for it, which sounds like a bit of a ripoff for me, because I mean, it's almost like you hear, like you have to. And honestly, I've seen local, not local networking marketing companies, but I've seen local people who do network marketing drive these really nice cars, right? And now I wonder if maybe the network marketing company is not paying for those cars, but that's just a thought. Anyway, so she's in that situation where she's got a car that she has to pay for because she's not meeting that level that they need in order for her to continue getting the car check, right, that she gets from this company. Secondly, her income is inconsistent, because we all know how network marketing works. If you don't know how network marketing works, I'm going to link up a video in the cards, because now I'm here to plug you guys on all things money and finance. If uti house cards, if uti car cards, getting married cards, don't cards, you know. So I'm going to link a video for you to find out more about network marketing and how it helps. I had a really great conversation with two gentlemen on the channel on network marketing, because they've been able to make a success of it. On that note, Ramit feels otherwise about network marketing. He actually likens it to Ponzi schemes and that type of WhatsApp group. To be honest, guys, I don't think that of network marketing. I know people who've built successful careers out of network marketing. I think what's just important to understand is that it's a very, very unstable environment. And it's the kind of environment that needs you to hustle, to push, and to continuously work and grow. I don't think it's a scam. I just think you need to understand which companies to associate yourself with and how it works. But if you also start making car commitments based on what you can receive from a variable salary, you also like adding complication to your life. So network marketing as a side hustle, I would say go for it. If there's like a low entry level, you've done your due diligence and you know what you're getting yourself into. I've seen people make quite a bit of money where they stop their jobs and focus purely on that. But you must just understand that it's inconsistent, it's variable. That means that what you commit that money to must also speak to that. You can't like make big purchases and expect to pay for it with that type of check unless you are like the top 1%. Then you can start making big purchases, etc. So that's what I think about the network marketing. I don't necessarily agree with Remit that it's a scam and it's there to like rip people off. I just think it doesn't work for everyone, and you need to know if you're the type of person who can really, really, really create value in that space, and if it's something that you can run with. So that's where they are now. Last thing about them is that she, because she earns less, feels some type of way, just like Drew in the previous scenario. She feels some type of way about the fact that she doesn't contribute equally to the relationship. So that's another financial challenge that they have. Up at number 3 is Frank, our baller. Frank, our person who loves the nice life, the good life, the lifestyle, the bags, the Gucci's, and all of that stuff. He loves spending money. He loves doing the brunches, popping champagne, and all of that stuff. So we learned that Frank loves spending, but also Frank, for his age, actually has a decent amount of income. So he has a full-time job as a therapist. He's got a second job that I'm not sure of, and he's also an influencer. So he earns quite a lot of money. And his actual living expenses are low. So he doesn't rent for a lot or anything like that. He just loves going on holidays, treating his friends, doing brunches, popping bottles, and all of those things. And just to pause there, I always say that when you are helping someone, or when someone comes to me and says that, I'm in trouble financially and all of that stuff, if your expenses are not fixed, like if your expenses have room to move and maneuver, what I mean by that is if you are spending a lot of your money on popping bottles, travels, entertainment, and all of that stuff, it's easier to help you cut down from that than a person who has high debt commitments and fixed expenses. So an expensive house, car, and debt, because those things are obviously fixed. It's not things that you can rewind. Once the person has the epiphany and goes, oh, Andy, so you're so right, I want to change my life. Unfortunately, with those things, you can't rewind them because they're quite permanent, right? You can fix them. You just need to do so like over a period of time. But if someone is popping bottles and stuff, it's easier to change that behavior because that's something you're doing every single weekend or every single month. I hope I'm making sense with that, guys. But this is the type of situation that Frank seems like he's in until Ramit picks up the fact that he's got a lot of student debt that he's completely avoiding. This reminded me of this other debt company that you guys owe, but you just completely ignore that loan and you pretend like it doesn't exist and you don't pay anything towards it. A lot of people borrow money to study from this place, but when it comes to paying it off, they're just not there. This is Frank, guys. Like, he does not want to pay that loan. It's $250,000. Can we talk about how much student debt is in the US? Like, it's crazy. Imagine studying for like 3 million rand or 2 million rand and having that debt sit on you as soon as you graduate. And I was telling Mr. M that honestly, these are some of the things that we should appreciate, about living in this country. Like, honestly, studying, guys, tertiary level is not that expensive. You don't owe people 4 million rand for getting a degree. Like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. And the fact that you just keep getting more and more and more and more to a point where it becomes overwhelming is crazy. So Frank does not want to pay his student loans. He knows that he owes them, but he's told himself that he's taking those loans to the grave. And that's his line, not mine. How do I feel about that? Two things. Number one, I do think that you need to pay all your debts because at some point they will catch up with you. Whether they're catching up with you when you start working, through deducting through your salary, whether they catch up with you when you want to acquire an asset and they pick something up, whether they catch up on you, when you are trying to do something in business and as an individual capacity, they pick up that your behavior in terms of your finances is shady, or whether you're trying to find a job and they do research and they find out that you are not a diligent payer and you're struggling to pay your debts. I do think that debts should be paid, right? In the same regard, I understand what he feels when he says that when am I going to finish this loan? It is $250,000. Like if I'm earning $30,000 to $40,000 a year, right? How and when am I going to finish a 250K loan? So I understand his negativity towards it. I understand, the fact that he's discouraged and he feels like it's a mountain that he'll never be able to climb in this lifetime. So I get where he's coming from, but obviously he does need to pay because as Ramit tells us, he's going to suffer a lot of consequences from not paying that loan. Ne? So I do think that he needs to pay it and he needs to stop ignoring it. And another thing, guys, that we pick up on Frank is the fact that his parents passed away when he was pretty young. And he got payouts from his mother's pension or insurance, I assume, and he got about $800 every month from the age of 15. That's a lot of money for a teenager to have at that age. And a teenager is getting this money with no guidance because both his parents had passed on, and it doesn't seem like he had anyone in extended family members to guide him. He had no financial education, no support in terms of this is what you do with 100 Rand, this is what you do with 200 Rand, which is, I feel for me, a real opportunity for us to learn the importance of teaching your children about money. If your children, God forbid, something happens to you and your kids get the sum of money, either in a lump sum or a monthly payment, and they've got no clue whatsoever on how to manage money, the behaviors, the bad behaviors, they will start picking up at that age because they don't know better, to be honest. So when he was younger, he started like buying McDonald's, takeaways, taking his friends out, settling this, getting people into parties and all of that stuff. And that has caught up with him because number one, in his head, he feels like, he's grown up with the mentality that money compensates for absence or love or the inability of people to, people not being able to be there, for example. And he's grown up with that mentality that you can avoid with money and you can solve a lot with money. And I feel like that's a psychological thing that he's going through that he needs to deal with through counseling, therapy, or however, because I feel like it is influencing a lot of what he ends up deciding or the choices that he makes. That background and mentality that, you can use money to feel better, or where there's no people, you can fill the void with money, or like, in order for people to be with you or be your friend, you need to settle the bill. He picked that up from a younger age, and I feel like it's something that he actually needs to deal with before he even gets to the number crunching. So he has a lot to sort out, guys. Frank has a lot to sort out. And I feel like I hope that enough attention is given to that layer before we build into his bad financial behaviors and what he needs to do there. Then we have, lastly, Sarah and Reggie. So Sarah and Reggie, I believe, they replicate what most couples go through in the beginning of a relationship where finances are concerned. I think where I've interacted with couples, it's only about 20% of the time where a couple has the same financial money personality. Usually people have opposite money personalities or very different money personalities, and that's because of this whole thing of the fact that opposites attract, right? So in a couple, you usually find a saver and a spender. You usually find a dreamer and someone who's more practical. That's just how couples work. I don't know why we don't just find our own, but we find something completely different. So in fact, you guys should guess who is who in the zoo when it comes to myself and Mr. M. Who do you think is the spender and the saver? I don't know if I've mentioned it on the channel, but we've also got a lot of new people on the channel. So maybe you guys can guess who you think is the saver and the spender. And I know some of you are like, isn't that obvious? Don't be so sure, okay? Don't be so sure. Anyway, So Sarah and Reggie are completely opposite in terms of their money personalities. Sarah is a spender. She's a you only live once. She's a dreamer. She wants the finer things in life. She likes going out to dinner with her friends, her partner, and all of that stuff. She loves a good time, right? Reggie, on the other hand, is a money pincher. He's very like spreadsheet, PowerPoint, track your expenses, track and manage your spending, limit yourself, and all of that stuff. So those are the type of money personalities that they have. And then what was interesting from me for them, they are also engaged to be married, by the way. So they're also in the midst of that planning a wedding. What was interesting for me for them is something that came out in a conversation where Ramit was sitting them down and asking, Oba, okay, Reggie, how would you describe your fiance's money personality in terms of the type of person that she is when it comes to money? And he said, I feel like she's a dreamer. I feel like, she just goes all out in terms of the things that she wants and stuff like that. And sometimes they are not very practical. And then Ramit asks Reggie, how would you then describe yourself in that situation? Like, what type of money personality do you have? And then he responds by saying, I suppose I'm the dream crusher. Ne? And then everybody laughs about it. But later on in the diary session, he speaks about the fact that he really it didn't sit well with him that he's a dream crusher. Because now that he thinks about it, I mean, they are in a partnership and they are there to make each other better and they are there to make each other rise, And to think of dream crusher, you're almost thinking about you come there with all this bubbly excitement of what you'd like to achieve. And you've got this person that just is ban, which is not nice. And I feel like it was a good reflection on his part and also a good reflection for all the money pinchers out there. Like some people, all the money pinchers out there, it's a good reflection point to say, even if you are the realistic partner, even if you are the practical partner, also bear in mind the importance of allowing your partner to dream, allowing your partner to feel like they are winning and they are achieving certain things. That balance is so important. You don't want to be that guy that every time I'm like, for example, babe, I'm thinking of buying, you're always like, oh, we can't afford, You want to like ease a person into that conversation, but also gain their support so that they don't end up not sharing things with you because you are going to crush and finish everything. Anyway, I thought that was a good learning point. And also, they start planning a wedding on paper. And Ramit says something that I think is so important, guys. And I've mentioned this in my Becoming Mrs. M series, right? When I chatted you guys through how to budget for a wedding, etc. He says that he's learned in his previous experience that once you have a certain figure in mind for your wedding, you need to double that to really afford what you want. And it sounds crazy, but it will only sound crazy to the people who haven't been married. To the people who've gone through the process and who have gotten married, they completely understand that this is so true, guys. Like, this is so true. You need to double that amount because weddings are expensive and they get out of hand very quickly. So they are in the midst of like trying to make that work, their wedding work, based on what they have. And I know that Sarah goes out dress shopping and her budget for a dress was $4,000 for 2 dresses, and she ends up finding a dress for $6,500 for one. So already it's like you've spent more you've spent the entire budget and more on one dress when you actually wanted 2. So that's just to give you a sense of when you go practical in terms of wedding planning, things just get out of hand completely. So they end up then asking their parents to help them pay for the wedding, which for me, I felt otherwise about that because I feel like personally I would have rather downgraded like my wedding budget or my wedding needs and what I want to do rather than having my parents pay. I don't mind if they offer me money in that position, but I don't want to ask them to fund a decent portion of our wedding because I just feel like they've done enough, they've done their part. And maybe it's coming from a point of having parents who are not rich and who don't have a lot. So I feel like they already gave me the little they had at some point. To now ask them to split what they have at this point is just like, personally, I would have just downgraded my wedding. But what they did is that they took that budget and actually increased it because of the support that they got from their parents. But each to their own, guys. And on the other hand, I thought to myself that maybe that's why we work so hard, right? To make sure that we can help out our kids and give them a boost. Maybe looking at it from that point of view makes it make sense. But personally, I would have left it there. So that's it, guys, when it comes to what we are dealing with these new families and couples. We are dealing with, leaving your job and wanting something more flexible. We're dealing with making your variable income work, not being entirely honest with your partner, like network marketing and all of that stuff. Trading konke nje. So in the next episode, I am going to take you through what happens to these specific individuals. That will be our final episode. What happens to these individuals? What advice is given? What do they implement and take on? And what I think about that. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing so we can see you in the next episode, which is our final one. Bye, guys.